Okay, Mr. Angus, let's take a look at your model. So one thing that kind of stands out right away is that it's apparent that you have a couple different bodies in here. If you go to Solid Bodies folder, you have all these different hinge cuts in here. And yeah, 5 bodies altogether, so we need to fix that. And it does look like you have the final mass value, which is okay, but let's go and clean up this model a little bit. I notice that one of your sketches in here is underdefined, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. And what's this? We got blue stuff in here. So if we take one of these endpoints and see what's going on here, we can see that's underdefined. So if you're doing the old AutoCAD way, again, you got to forget about that stuff. Just forget about that. And you got to keep your reference geometry in here. So a couple of things you need to do. You put in some model lines in here. We don't do that. We don't put model lines in there because SolidWorks wants to do something 3D with them. What you want to do is you want to take those model lines and make those center lines, make it construction geometry. So construction geometry, go ahead and click on that button. That converts it, so that takes care of part of that. And, we could do the fully defined dimensions thing. I'm not going to do that because it's going to give us something that we don't want. So let's go ahead and go between that circle and that line and put a dimension in there. And, I think it's supposed to be 210, and that's a minimum distance. So let's see what we can do. Let's go ahead and put that leader on, or click on that leader. We're going to make that minimum, right? Is that 210? Now let's make sure we have whole digits in here, which we do. So that's okay. Now let's just go ahead and define this a little bit better, too. 2.25, is that what we have there? Well, it's 0.45. Yeah, but you have a radius in that. So let's go ahead and do the green check mark on that. And let's go ahead and click on that, go to leaders, and make sure we do diameter and not radius. So kind of define a circle here, so you want to flip that. So yeah, it looks like everything's fully defined there. And let's go to our next feature. I think that was our round piece, as you call it. Let's take a rollback bar and roll that back over here. So there's that thing. There's the round piece. Now when we do that, go to the, when you go to the feature, you want to make sure you merge the result. So when you do that, it may not have been merged because it was a solid body before, but you want to make sure you merge it this time. That way it comes together. And when you do that, your solid bodies folder disappears because you only have one solid body instead of 5 is what you had before. So hinge hole, yeah, that's okay. Separate feature, that's fine. Hinge cut, it doesn't like us there. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Let's go normal to it. And so this one looks like it's fully defined, and you got an endpoint down here that's no longer relevant. So it kind of disappeared with that change geometry. So let's go ahead and take that dangling relationship in there. Test question. Let's do Control Z. Let's go ahead and take that out of there. We're going to go ahead and delete that. Now we got a loose point in here. Let's go ahead and put that back down over here on that spot. New bit of geometry, probably the sketch geometry in the background. Now it'll be okay. And now you see this number 4, which tells us we're having 4 instances up here. You got your linear sketch pattern, which is okay, but if we sketch this out or stretch that out, again, that's underdefined. It may have been defined before, but now we need to do something with that. So a couple things we could do. We could take that line and this line over here and make that vertical. That's one thing we could do. Make those up. Okay, let's try it again. We're going to go ahead and select that and that. We're going to make those vertical. Vertical to each other. Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind. You can do that to points, but this one we want to make collinear. There we go. A little brain fade there. And let's go ahead and put a dimension between, a full cycle dimension between this line and that line. We're going to make that 1 inch. So that fully defines it. And here's a new sketch relation. It's called a pattern sketch relation. And now we have that in place, so I think we're okay. Go to the green check mark or go to rebuild. Let's see what else we got. Circular pattern, doesn't like that, so let's see what we can do with that. So it's suggesting you have your round piece, hinge cut, and hinge hole. I think it would be better if you did the pattern. Well, let's see. Hinge piece, let's see what else we need to do. Not 180 degrees, probably want to do 270. Let's do this. Let's go up here and right-click on it and say, what's wrong? It's like a counseling session. Select your feature could not be patterned using geometry pattern. Deselect the geometry pattern and checkbox. What the geometry pattern does, if you go in here, it it just does it in a different way. It resolves it in a different way. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So this time it worked. It's about a 50% chance it's not going to work. So it kind of resolves it in a different way. I think because we had 2 solid bodies before, or actually a whole bunch of solid bodies before. Now that we only have one, it's going to have to resolve it in a different way. So there you go. That's hinge circular pattern works. And then that cut in the right-hand side, let's go back and see what our mass properties are. Yeah, we're still off in a y direction by 1/8 of an inch, so that's like half the distance here. So I get the feeling you didn't do a mid-plane extrude. So let's go back to plate and go to mid-plane extrude, not blind, but mid-plane. We're going to try to keep everything symmetrical. If you do that, go to mass. Uh-oh, now it doesn't like us anymore. Let's go see what's happening over here. So, yeah, so let's see, we got some geometry. It isn't quite working, so we were actually selecting a sketch in the very bottom. Probably don't want to do that anymore, so we're going to deselect this guy and maybe pull that down. Let's go ahead and deselect that too. So we're going to go ahead and pull that whole thing down. Take this thing, and let's go park it in that corner. And to make that enclosed geometry, let's take a line going from that point to that point. And that'll fix that. So what had happened here is this sketch is on the bottom because you did a blind extrude. But now we put it in the middle. That kind of cut that little piece off at the bottom. Quite severely, it looked like. So this isn't quite right either. So now we have this point over here, which isn't right. So let's go ahead and take that point, get rid of that, and take the end point of that and park that back down at the origin where it belongs. So that'll straighten that guy out. So in a way, you kind of have to look at the geometry, what we did here. So I'm going to do Control-Z a couple times. You can see what had happened, what it was before. And yeah, I mean, it was quite literally doing what we asked it to do. We just didn't have our points and our lines in the right location. So that does Control-Z. We're going to do Control-Y a couple times to get us back to where we were before. If we rebuild that, now we should be okay. So don't fear errors. Errors give you an opportunity to learn, and are usually pretty easy to fix once you get a bit of skill under your belt. Let's go back to mass properties. Over here, 10054, that's okay. 268 is the other guy, 0 for the Y, and that's good. Z is 1861, negative 1861. Yep, you got that too. You're looking good. So get those changed, and you should be okay. Be careful with your model. Just make sure you follow all the steps correctly. Because if you get one little thing wrong, especially at the very beginning, which you didn't do, I mean, you got the mid-plane extrusion incorrect. But if you get things wrong from the very beginning, it affects the rest of the model. It's going to be bad the whole way through.